the king, the legend, the greatest. Thalapathy Vijay, you already know. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Shazni, the GOAT. Spoiler thoughts. Alright, so I've seen the GOAT 3 times. And here I'll be sharing my thoughts on the things that worked and didn't work for me. Alright, so with that said, let's get this rolling. First off, Thalapathy was next level, pure, straight fire. The dude was on a whole different playing field with this man, especially Jeevan, the clone Jeevan, the real Jeevan, whichever the Jeevan we were experiencing. There is many scenes with Jeevan that are fantastic, dope, thrilling, exciting, fun, dark. Probably my favorite scene in the entire film takes place in the second half, which is the interrogation scene. Everything about it, the shot composition, the direction, the writing, the performance, the feel of it, the way Venkat Prabhu has executed that scene, for me was the peak of that film. And every single time I watched it, every single time I got near that sequence, I got this sense of excitement. And it was such a pleasure to experience it every single time. And Thalapathy's performance in there, it is an absolute masterclass. So well layered, it's exciting. There's so many things at play in that scene, which we get to know in the aftermath. But the way that scene works every single time, it's such a joy for me. I really, really loved everything about it. One of the best things about The GOAT is the rewatchability, right? Your first time experience and your second time will be different. So many of these scenes, the first time experience is going to be always unique because the second time it works in a different manner. Some of these scenes where there are multiple things that are happening within it which you're not aware of the first time experiencing it, and the second time you're watching it, it still gives you that excitement with the knowledge of what's going to happen and what is actually at play here. So I really enjoyed the rewatchability of The GOAT. I think that is one of the biggest strengths of this film. Like, for example, the scene, the first time, not the first time, but the second time Gandhi and Jeevan meet, right? How Jeevan is luring Gandhi to the bridge. I That's another scene that I really, really loved watching it. The first time was really good. The second time was great. The third time was even better. The first time, there's this sort of a naive innocence there, right? You can feel what is Gandhi's going through, and you're looking at Jeevan in a very specific way the first time. The second time, it's all a part of the plan. Jeevan is plotting, Jeevan is luring Gandhi. And the third time for me was just really about Gandhi in that scene. The way he's following his son. He's so vulnerable in that moment, in that scene. And the music of it, the staging of it, all the ways in which it works together. I thought it was brilliant. I really love Thalapathy's performance in Gandhi because it's so subtle. There's so many scenes in where, like, for example, the scene with Prashant's daughter gets held hostage by Jeevan, of which the characters do not know. But I just really love how each character was written and how they were performing. I think it works so well because the way Gandhi deals with it, the father Gandhi is present, but also the agent is also present. So I really like the balance in act in which how Thalapathy kind of plays that scene. So I thought that was fantastic. Like, for example, the way he handles so many of these circumstances, because it's so personal to him. It's about his son, right? It's such a close call. I think it's very interesting the way Gandhi was written. I thought it was very suppressed, yet an emotional, vulnerable character. I thought the balancing was really, really good. So that really worked for me. There is also some great action set pieces which I really, really enjoyed. Of course, the chase sequence with the bike, I thought that was fantastic. The interval fight was great. The reveal, the BGM, next level pure straight fire. Yuvan Shankar Raja really came through the clutch with the BGM. He gave us so many variations of the theme and multiple different themes that said the same thing, and I really enjoyed the score overall. Hopefully he releases the OST for the entire film because there's some great numbers, especially the one like the bridge scene, the first bridge scene. Like, I really love the score in that. Also the stadium, the bike right in the stadium. That BGM is different from the main GOAT BGM. I really like that one. So there's so many in there, and the mixing was so great in theaters, bro. It was really, really good. Also, the way Venkat Prabhu showcased the trauma that the young Jeevan went through, which has led him to the path that he's in right now. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was well done, and you believe it. Nobody questioned why Jeevan could have been easily manipulated. So that was a very strong point. So that's well done. But I really dislike the censorship. Okay. Censoring the blood. Listen, I know I haven't seen many people complain about it because I think they've accepted that. But that really bugged me. It ruins the image. Shit looks ugly. It looks ugly. When Jeevan is killing Srinidhi, which is a character which I'll get to, by the way, it was effective despite the censorship. But I'm saying to censor all the blood stuff, it was just distracting. It was really annoying to me. Despite that, it still worked, which is a good thing, right? I wasn't expecting Jeevan to go that far. That really played into the character narrative, which I liked. But I think it took away the immersion to me. Like it was distraction. The second you feel distracted, I get removed from the screen. So that really bugged me throughout the movie. I understand the censor board and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. We've seen much worse. Like I think if they knew that was going to be a problem, unless they didn't, they should have found another angle to shoot it, so they don't have to do the blurring stuff. Because I'm telling you, it's distracting. It breaks immersion. I don't care what anybody says. This might be a minority thing right here. Most people kind of got past it because I haven't really seen anybody complain about it. Like I think filmmakers, if this is the problem y'all gonna be facing, I think they should find a way to shoot it in a different angle and use sound as a form of letting us know what the hell is going on. That said, the fact that Srinidhi's death worked and people wanted more out of it, it's a sign that that was a missed opportunity. Even though Venkat Prabhu's intention was clearly that she was an informational ideology, not necessarily emotional one, I think that was a misjudgment. Maybe he felt like, we don't need it because it's a commercial movie. I do think Venkat Prabhu undercuts himself, undersells himself every time he uses commercial filmmaking as an excuse to not go all the way through. Like, what is commercial movie supposed to be? Stupid? Like that like those kind of thought process and ideologies really bothers me as a fan of cinema. But given the opportunity, a scene, right? A scene that kind of gave Srinidhi a little bit more character, a little bit more of a dynamic personality, in which we could have suffered further about her death. The fact that it worked despite of it all speaks to how well it's executed, right? Like how well it was paced. Like you couldn't believe that, Jeevan is about to go that far. So that was a shock. Like you didn't really see that coming to that extent. So imagine if he gave us a little bit more depth and you really cared about Srinidhi before she died. We only cared about Srinidhi because she died. We could have cared less about her until that point. So imagine if you already scared for her. So when Jeevan is holding her hostage, from the beginning, you would have been at the edge of your seat, thinking, "Is he going to actually do it?" But during the whole scene, the intensity, the characters were like terrified and they were like losing their minds. But as an audience, we were sort of like in a relaxed state until shit hit the fan. So again, ultimately, the goal worked, but it could have been far greater, right? It could have been one of the most intense scenes in a commercial film ever. Because it was just like a missed opportunity. So every time I rewatch the film, right, my third viewing, I'm just like, damn, if only like he gave us a little bit more for Srinidhi, it would have made that scene even more tragic. Because I do believe, maybe it's just me, because I do believe that Jeevan actually loved her. In his own crazy, twisted Joker way, I do believe that he was in love with her, right? Because when he says, மனிதன் புரிந்துகொள்ள இது மனிதன் காதல் அல்ல, right? Like the Guna dialogue, it works in terms of a reference, which is how I took it the first time. But the second and the third time, I'm like, hold on a second. Like that works in theory because he's also a clone, right? So this is not necessarily a quote unquote, a traditional human love story right here. And he is crazy. He is unstable. So in a way, for me, I felt like, damn, like he actually loved her enough that he didn't mind getting caught. What if it wasn't Prabhudeva who found her first? Unless Jeevan already knew Prabhudeva was going to be the one to find her first, that's not clear. But he still let her breathe. He still gave her a 50-50 chance to survive. So for me, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, that's great. But imagine, like, nobody would have probably thought of in that prospect, right? Nobody saw that scene and be like, you know what, Jeevan actually loves her. Only if Venkat Prabhu gave us a Jeevan Srinidhi intimate scene where they're both speaking and maybe we see a small, tiny sense of humanity in him. She was able to kind of blossom within him. Like, he might not care about Gandhi, his mom, his sister, but Srinidhi could have been different. They could have done something there, something small, nothing too crazy. And there might be a moment Jeevan looks at her and be like, I'm desiring something that I could never have. So there could have been something that could have given there. You could have still made him a cold-blooded killer. It's all about the mission. But it could have still been somewhat tragic. So I don't know. There's so much in here. So when I'm watching, I'm just like, God damn, they could have, like, Venkat Prabhu had it all. Like, it's on his plate. Like, he just didn't choose certain ingredients. I think there was a sense of, this is enough. This is good enough. We don't need to go any further. I think that always holds back this film. This movie could still be a mainstream commercial film with all these elements that I'm speaking of. Because, if you're going to go that far, adding more depth is not going to take away from the experience whatsoever. It would have just elevated the experience. But I already went on too long with that. Prabhudeva's character was interesting. Because that is the only character in the film, it just feels very one note to me. I would have preferred if it was a twist. When you watch the second time, you can understand why. I know Venkat Prabhu has a skill set to maybe write or put in a dialogue or sort of insinuate that, oh, he has those tendency in him. But not against the team. Like, you don't doubt him. But when he betrays the team, you can believe that, oh, that's a possibility. When you rewatch the film, you feel like, okay, I could see how he always had those tendencies. I could see how he can turn. But every time you watch it, you really don't see it much because it was just really a one-note type of a character. He'll do anything for money, but that's not enough. That is the stereotypical commercial mainstream twist that I don't like because it doesn't really make much sense the more you watch it, right? Not that it doesn't make any sense. It's more so there's no real writing there. It was just a twist that you were not going to see it coming. Like, there was nothing about him. For example, I really like the way Venkat Prabhu wrote Prashant's character, because even in the opening, the first act of the film, you can see the friendship, the bond. Thalapathy's character with Gandhi and the Prashant's character, I could really see their friendship, how tight they are. The line where he says, since childhood, this dude is always overacting. When I first heard that line, my mind immediately was like, oh shit, they've been tight since they were kids. This is a ride or die best friend right here, right? He's been there since day one, since they were kids. So for me, that already established that bond. So for me, every time they were on screen, I could trust him. I could have always trusted him. No matter what, he'll come through. So that's a problem, right? So the movie has some real depth, with Gandhi. I think Gandhi is well written. I really like the way Thalapathy plays that character. I love the calmness because I really like the first act, how joyful he is. And the birth of his daughter, such a beautifully tragic scene. And then the calmness, like when he's older, the way he handles everything else. So the film fluctuates from some insane highs, and then the lows just feels underwhelming. It just feels like, okay, like we just have to buy into this. I really liked the movie the first time I watched it. I really liked the movie the second time I watched it. I really liked the movie the third time I watched it. So the rewatchability is really good. So most of the things that work so freaking well. Top class blockbuster filmmaking. And there's just some stuff that just feels lazy. Feels like, what? This is enough. We'll just focus on here more. And I think those kind of things stands out more when the great is so great and the mediocre is really mediocre. That is the primary problem the film faces for me. It's there, but not all the way through. Some things are extremely well done. Like the interrogation scene, masterclass. The lighting, the composition, the mirror, the camera movement, beautifully orchestrated, beautifully shot, beautifully performed, beautifully written, beautifully directed. That is peak Venkat Prabhu. Might be the best scene he's ever done, in my opinion. That scene really immersed me as a fan of cinema. Like, again, I've spoken about it a lot because that's how much I loved it. Now let's talk about the song placements. I could have lived without Spark, but I do enjoy when Thalapathy dances and performs in character in songs. So I really enjoyed watching that song individually. Y'all know I wasn't a fan of the song itself, but just seeing Jeevan doing Jeevan stuff in that song, I really, really enjoyed just the song itself individually. But in terms of the pacing, where it comes, it was just really unnecessary. Kind of, again, the mentality of it being a commercial movie and being like, what's enough? We can put that in here. It's not a big deal. So I just doesn't really work for me in that way. The opening song, they changed it. It was better in theaters, but like it's nothing crazy. I'm cool with it or without it. But Mata song and the fucking placement, top class. Loved it. Because people had issues with that placement. But for me, loved it. Like, loved it. Because I liked that this is now about Jeevan. Because that is what Jeevan is doing. Like, I don't understand. What do you mean by, it was a bad placement? Like, no, this is Jeevan's movie right now. He's winning. He said that he's at his top of his game. He's the king of the freaking mountains right now, bruh. For me, in that moment, the movie shifts and becomes Jeevan's movie. Not about Gandhi, it's about Jeevan. So that song placement was tragically beautiful because there was people who were, oh my God, like, I don't even like Jeevan at this point. I sort of like despise him at this point. And I got a jam for this song. People were conflicted trying to enjoy that song because they were bothered by him killing. So I thought that was very fun and exciting. So for me, the placement, I got no issues with it. At that moment, Jeevan was the king of the jungle and he earned that song. And I really like Thalapathy again in character. Also the way the song is choreographed. Trusha coming in there. Fantastic. If you're gonna do item song, that's how you do it, bro. I thought it was brilliant, to be honest with you. And also the ending of that song and how it kind of comes through the narrative. And also the where's the yellow sari scene. I thought that was great. It really worked with the idea of, the girl comes in, dance, and she disappears. I like the comment. So that really, really worked. So I really enjoyed how all of it came together. Speaking of the real goat, I also like the scene when Thalapathy is sitting in front of that window. Like, oh man, Thalapathy's mannerism, the Ilya Thalapathy's mannerism was fantastic. Again, Thalapathy versus Ilya Thalapathy stuff, all of that, y'all know it's fantastic. So I don't want to speak on it too much. It's next level PS Fire. The king, the legend, the greatest. You already know. So speaking of the third act, it was a very ambitious third act. The back and forth, the chasings, I thought that was really, really fun and exciting. And I really liked the utilization of BGM in the third act because like multiple scores and also the final shot, when Thalapathy is taking the gun, swinging. That scene is so good, bro. I really like it because the fact that he had a gun on him the whole time, just didn't use it, there was still some hope in him, right? That was his last resort. He didn't want to kill his son. He didn't want to do it. With Jeevan being who he is, right? The clone that he is. And Thalapathy's like, all right, bro. I tried. I gave my all. This is it, bro. It's time to pull out the weapon, right? So he pulled it out. The BGM is great. The slow-mo, everything about how that kind of went about, I really, really enjoyed that. Then the post-credit scene. The first time when I watched it, I'm like, what the hell is going on? You for real. But then I'm starting thinking about it. I'm like, yo, the potential of this. What if the actual Jeevan might have some vulnerability? Maybe Jeevan felt like, since he is my biological father, he could emotionally manipulate me. But what if I make a clone and his only desire and his only target is to eliminate Gandhi? So the more I thought about it, the better it got. And just the idea of Gandhi facing his son once again, just like, I want to see that film. Man, if you ask me, Leo 2 or Go 2, of course, I love Leo more. It's my favorite Thalapathy film, you already know. But if you ask me, do I want a Leo 2 or a Go 2? Potential-wise, the story potential, the drama potential of Go 2 is insane to me. Maybe it's just my own imagination speaking to me, but based on that idea, the setup, it took some time, but it landed. So the idea of Thalapathy facing another clone, but also his real son, the OG versus the GOAT, like I just want to see that. I just want to experience what that would even look and feel like. A sequel could happen, we'll see how everything plays out 2026. Maybe in between he might come and do one. I don't know. But again, if you ask me Leo 2 or Go 2, I'm going to go 2. Not even a competition for me. Even though I love Leo more, clearly. It's my favorite Thalapathy film. And GOAT is probably in my top 10. It's closer to a top 5 for me. But I got to sit through and, list it out. Because even though I had problems with the GOAT, right, things that I loved about the GOAT, I love it so much. The things that I didn't like or didn't work, it was easy for me to ignore. Like, it didn't bother the experience. It was more so potential lost. It held back the film from its full greatness, but the things that I loved, I can just keep rewatching. Honestly, I think what Venkat Prabhu has accomplished with this film is really underrated. It's so well paced for a 3-hour commercial film that is purposely also holding itself back from its full potential, yet giving me some of the greatest telepathy scenes ever. It's all over the place. Yet, there's a thread in there that works, that you can hold on to and have a really good time. So the fact that I watched it 3 times and I feel like watching another speaks volume to me. I do want to add that the climax fight could have been better between Gandhi and Jeevan. It was right, but I think it could have been far, far better. Lots of wire work. I just felt like it was a little bit messy, So I just wish it was a little bit more cleaner. But yeah, so I like the way it concluded, but I just wish it was a little bit more dynamic. And also the comedic bits in the third act really worked well. And Sivakarthikeyan's cameo was really, really fun. Alright, so yes, I need to talk about the villain situation. Although Jeevan is the actual villain, but many people were talking about Menon being a weak villain. I mean, obviously, I just do not understand with it being a complaint. Like people saying, he was a weak villain, he wasn't a threat. Yeah, that's the fucking point. Menon is not a threat. That is the whole point why he was working in the shadows. Every time he faced Gandhi, Gandhi whipped him, outsmarted him. The only way Menon even had a potential upper hand is him being far away from him. Menon has clearly shown that he is no physical threat. He is not smarter than Gandhi either. That's not who Menon is. That is why Menon needed to build a weapon that could destroy Gandhi. Because he knows he can't. He doesn't even have Jeevan in control. Like, the whole movie is basically saying this dude is not a very good villain. He is simply a delusional, money-hungry traitor who's mad that his family got stuck in a tragedy he put himself in. So from their first encounter, or many times prior to this, he knows that he's no physical threat. There's nothing he can do to Gandhi. He did the only thing he thought was possible, which he did. Kidnapped his son, raised him, tortured him, obviously, then raised him, manipulated him, brainwashed him. Jeevan doesn't even know this. In a sequel, what happens when Jeevan finds out? Gandhi didn't really investigate into Jeevan's past because he just didn't think of it in that prospect. He was a son. He was blindsided. So that is Menon's whole point. He is using Gandhi's only weakness, which is his family, his vulnerability. He knew he was going to be blindsided. So he's trying to outsmart him, which he fails at the end of the day. But Menon knows his range. This dude is like, when he got caught at the shipment place, right? When he got caught, this dude is scared. He's scared to get caught. He's like, oh, damn, oh my God. He's not pretending to be this tough dude, this tough guy. That's not who he is. What's threatening is the unpredictable psycho, which is Jeevan. That is the villain. So why can't we have a villain in this shade? So I really like the direction Venkat Prabhu took, having someone like Menon being sort of a weakling, yet he brought the biggest threat to Gandhi's life. I mean, what more do you expect out of Menon? He wasn't going to fight him hand to hand. Come on now. He wasn't going to really outsmart him. The second he faced Gandhi in the third act, it was already over. It was over before it began. So the only minute chance Menon had on defeating Gandhi was him waiting like 2 decades and still failed. That's who Menon is. That's why you need Jeevan being that real threat that he created, which Menon can't even control. So I thought that was very interesting. So that was a weird complaint. I'm like, wait, you You literally wanted another different character. Like you didn't want Manon. You wanted somebody else. Like that's just a weird complaint to me. If it didn't work for you, that's one thing. But to say that we didn't have a stronger villain, Manon was a great villain. Like he was who he was. He was an interesting villain. Like because Jivan is the actual byproduct. Jivan is what Manon wish he could be. Even when he was manipulating Jivan in the flashback, the young Jivan, even in that scene, you can see Manon is like he's like kind of like scared that Jivan's gonna find out. He's just spitballing. He's trying things. You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was really, really interesting. So he is evil, but he doesn't have that capability. So he's kind of grooming this kid. And the fact that, Jivan doesn't even know that, and that could be a reveal in the sequel, it could be a great reveal. You know what? Before I wrap up, there's another great scene that I forgot to mention. It's a scene where during the chief's funeral, I really like how that dialogue exchange and Jivan is listening to the conversation and that top-down shot. Again, Jivan's reaction and I'm waiting dialogue, fantastic. I really love how that felt. That was so good. That was freaking good. With that said, that's my overall long spoilers thoughts. I was all over the place, but hopefully it was cohesive enough that y'all were able to enjoy. And for those who watched it all the way through, you know what? Put the goat emoji. If you watched this all the way through, put the goat emoji. Then I'll know that you watched it all the way through. That being said, if you do, because this is a long ass video, and I hope this spoiler stock was worth the wait, because I know some of you have been waiting for weeks for this. So with that said, thank you all so much for watching, and see y'all on my next one. Salute.